What's up everybody, welcome to the channel and the video review of the FuriBee Nebula 230, the 230mm brushless FPV racer. This comes in the bind and fly version with the FR XM receiver, which I have here today. It also comes in the PNP version without a receiver, so that one you will have to provide your own receiver. Now taking a look at this bad boy here, it's got this purple theme going on. Check this baby out. Yeah, it's got this nice design on the plates, the carbon fiber plates. Yeah, and that is all around design all the way to the bottom. So the whole quadcopter is in purple, guys. So that is looking pretty fantastic. Now it has the arms separate from the body, so it is not a unibody, it is a sandwiched design. But check the arms out. They're sandwiched with some white material in the middle. Now I'm not sure what kind of material that is. It looks kind of like a glass fiber material. It can't be carbon fiber. So we got the top and the bottom plate sandwiching some white stuff. The top and the bottom is the carbon fiber frame, measuring in at around 1 millimeter in thickness, top and bottom. In between the white sandwiched area is measuring in at about 2 millimeters. So this is a 4 millimeter thick arm, and it's sandwiched via a top and a bottom plate that measures in at 2 millimeters respectively. And the bottom plate is just a little small piece, just to hold on to the arms. But the top of the sandwich plate goes all the way to the back. And we have another top plate going from all the way from front to the back as well. That's measuring in at 2 millimeter as well. And we got some supporting side plates as well to support the camera as well as the LED lights and whatnot in the back, and the VTX. And these are coming in at 2 millimeters as well. Now it is pretty nice looking, I have to say. It's got the camera and it is tilt adjustable, and you can go all the way to the top because of that little cutout. I got the XM receiver coming out over here with a zip tie. I just kind of electric taped it together. And the VTX antenna is that stick antenna. Well, even though they give you the stick antenna, I did fly it already, and it didn't give me any problems as far as the video transmission is concerned. Yeah, it's worked out pretty good, but you probably want to switch this out to some circular polarized type of antenna, so it gives you a little bit better video feed. Now taking a look at the motors here, they're purple as well, going with that purple theme, but we got some pink props. Yeah, too bad they didn't give us matching purple props. But the motors here are the 2205 2600 kV motors, and we got some tri-bladed props. They are the 5042 tri-bladed props. And we got some ESCs right on the arms themselves, and the ESCs are the BL Heli S 25 amp ESCs, and these are not D-shot ESCs, guys. I had to put it on multi-shot for it to work, so it is multi-shot ESCs. Okay, anyways, like I said, the top plate is measuring in at 2 millimeters, and the side plates are measuring in at 2 millimeters as well. So it is a very, very strong frame, I have to say. So we got two screws holding on the arms from the sandwich, one of which is going up straight off to the standoffs, and the standoffs are purple as well. We got 4 of them going straight up. So the other screw is actually the screw for the standoff for the tri-level stack. So dual purpose here and dual purpose here, using those standoffs and holding on to the arms. And it is one solid frame, guys. It is not going to break on you anytime soon, unless you going very fast and you hit some concrete or something like that. Anyways, taking a look at the stack over here. There's a tri-level stack, one stack on the bottom in between, and one more stack on the top of components. The bottom one here is the power distribution board. The second one up is the flight controller, and the flight controller is the Omnibus F4 flight controller, pre-flashed with Betaflight 3.1.7, and we are given Betaflight OSD as well, so that is just fantastic. And on the opposite side is the micro USB port, and we are also supporting a micro SD card as well for your black box needs and whatnot. And the top plate, or the top components on the stack, is the video transmitter, and the video transmitter is the 40 channel 5.8 gigahertz 0, 25 and 300 milliwatts switchable VTX, and there is a single button you can access from the top, and you can kind of see the button from this hole here. Kind of hard to see with this lighting, but there it is right there. If you can see that, yeah, you can still change channels and frequency and power output from the top via those holes, but you will need to take this off so you can see the LED display. There is an LED display showing you what's going on. It is tucked in right underneath there, and you can't really see it from the top, so you're gonna have to take off these 4 screws to access the VTX, so you can set that VTX to your liking. Now, the camera that we are given with this setup is a little bit on the shady side here. It's got a pretty narrow field of view lens. I don't know what kind of a camera this is. It's kind of a generic HS1177 style kind of camera. So it is a 700 TV line, however, and it is a CMOS camera, and I don't know the specifics on the field of view. All I can tell you, it is not a great field of view. I'm used to a little bit more wider field of view than this camera, so kind of hard to fly with a narrow field of view camera. So when you get this, you might want to change out this camera for a better one, or at least change out the lens so you get a little bit wider field of view. Okay, what I've done now is I've taken off the 4 screws that was holding the top plate down. Those were the standoff screws from the top, so I can go ahead and remove the top plate to show you what it looks like on the inside. I still have my zip tie holding the XM receiver wire, and I just used a couple of small little pieces of electric tape, so it will be pretty easy to remove, because once I take this top plate off, the antenna wire will be tugging on the receiver. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that right out, just like that. I found this is one of the easiest and the fastest ways to secure your receiver antenna onto a zip tie. So there you go. There's 2 little electric pieces of tape. Very easy to release the antenna, and it kind of helps too. I've crashed several times utilizing a little bit more secure hold, and the reason why I used to use the coffee straw was when you crash, you don't want your antenna being pulled out together with whatever is holding on to your antenna wire. So, you know, the loosest way you can secure your antenna, the better, because these zip ties, once you hit something right here, the zip tie will just break right off, and it'll take the antenna with you, or with it. So, you know, this way it's pretty good. So let's go ahead and open up the top plate and just kind of wiggle it. Okay, so we are off, and there you go. The antenna comes right off, and there's the receiver, and it is the XM receiver, the FrSky XM receiver. So I got the coax going to the VTX antenna, and that is soldered onto the VTX itself. So be careful with it, and they do such a good job soldering that thing on like a horseshoe design. Very, very nicely done. So as you can see, we have the LED display right there, and I got my XM receiver kind of double-sided sticky tape to the video transmitter, and I'm just going to let go now, kind of let it hang there. So there you go. There's the little button in kind of like a bronzy color. That is to change the channel, the frequency, and the power output of the VTX. So let me go ahead and grab a battery to show you how to do that. All right, I got the quadcopter powered on now, so we can see the LED display. It is flicking between the frequency and the channel, and it is set on frequency C, and it is set on channel 2, and it's just going back and forth on that. There is the button to change the frequency and the channels. So I'm going to go ahead and short press it. It should change the channel to 3. There you go. Short press it, change the channel to 4 while still in frequency C. So we can flicker through all of the channels, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then goes back down to 1. So now if you want to change the frequency, you're going to double tap this button like really quick. Okay, now we are short pressing it to change the frequency or the band, and it is flickering through A, B, C, D, and E, which is 5 frequency in total. I'm going to go back down to C and let it go. It will go back to the normal state, which is just flicking through the frequency and the channel. So we are set on C1. Now if you want to change the power output of the VTX, you're going to triple press this button real quick. It is showing H. If you short press it, it'll go to low, and short press it again, it'll go to 0, and short press it again, it'll go to high. Now I'm just going to leave it on high, which is 300 milliwatts. Now I'm not sure if the low is 0 and that 0 is 0, so I'm not really sure about that, but I'm pretty sure the low is 0 and that 0 is in a second position, which is 25 milliwatts. So I'm not sure. 0, 25, and 300 seems to be a very wide fluctuating power output. 0, 25, and then 300. There's no 100 in between or anything like that. So I just left mine on H, which I know for sure it is on 300 milliwatts, and it did pretty good with 300 milliwatts, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And that is how you change the channel, the frequency, and the power output on this video transmitter. Okay, next up, since we have the top cover opened already and we got the XM receiver highly visible now, what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and bind to our transmitter. I'm going to be using my Taranis Qx7s to bind with this XM receiver, and this XM receiver has a bind button right over there, right next to the antenna, and I had to cut the shrink wrap a little bit in order to access that bind button. So take a look right there. There you go, kind of a bronzy color button with a little black dot in the middle. That little black dot is what you want to depress and power up the quadcopter at the same time. And what the receiver will do, it will go into a binding mode with a red light and a, I believe, blue light flickering on and off at the same time, and at which time it is in a binding mode. And what you're going to do is set up a model on your radio and press the bind key on the radio itself. So let's go ahead and set up the transmitter. Let me put this quadcopter on the side here. Here is the Qx7s. What I'm going to do is power this baby on. There's the power on switch. You hold it for a little while and it'll give you a haptic feedback to turn it on, kind of unlike the Qx7 where you just down pressed it and it turns on. Okay. All right, so we got the GEP Sparrow set up. Let's see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to set up a new model. So I'm going to go ahead and borrow one of those models that are already set up. So I'm going to down press it and I'm going to go ahead and copy that model. Yeah, that's kind of cheating. There you go. I copied the model and I made a new model. And then what I'm going to do is select that model, and now I'm selected that new model. So I'm going to go flicking over to the page and I'm going to change the name of the model, and what I want to call this one is the FuriBee Nebula. Okay, so I'm gonna, there you go, I just love this scrolling wheel to change. It is so fast. FB, if you long press and it will change it to a capital. So I'm going to long press, There you go. Changed it to a capital. I want a little space right here, so go all the way to the left. There's a space, and we're gonna go to the N. Long press it. Nebula. N-E. Okay, and that one I want a blank. All right, so we are set with the name, so we are good to go. Now let's scroll from the bottom up and check it out. We are selected on the internal RF D16, so 16 channels. All right, so we're gonna go to that bind key, and we're just gonna leave it there for now. So let's go back to our quadcopter here, and we're going to power this baby up while depressing that little bind button on the receiver. So yeah, again, we will need 10 hands for this job here. So let me get it all ready to go. Get the battery ready to go. Man, that's very, very sensitive. Okay, so oops. So there's the bind button. Yeah, I felt it going down, so let me go ahead and press it in, and oh, it didn't work. Okay, do it again. Okay, oops, I got it down pressed. You will know you did it right when you see both red and blue light, or red and green light on the receiver. So now what we are going to do is hit this bind button, already set on bind. We're going to press this enter button, and as you can see, the red light on the receiver is blinking. This goes the same with the XM Plus receiver. It does the same thing. XM and XM Plus behaves the same manner. So we are bound. So what we are going to do is unplug the battery here.
4, 3, 2.
Okay, turn off the voice alarm, and we're going to stop, and we're going to exit out of the bind page, and we should be bound. So what we're going to do is plug this baby back in. I'm running out of space. There we go. We're going to plug it back in, and now we should see that the receiver will just have a solid green light indicating that we are bound. So let's go ahead and test this baby out. Let's go ahead and turn off the transmitter and bring the transmitter back in view here. So we're going to hold this button down, and haptic feedback turns off the transmitter, and as you can see, the XM receiver now is red lit. The green light is gone, so we are bound. So let's go ahead and turn it back on, and this light should go green. Not yet. We gotta go through a couple of steps on this throttle warning, and as soon as I hit this button, that should go green. There you go. We know now we are bound. All right, so that is how you bind your Taranis or your Qx7s or Qx7 or X9D for that matter with a XM receiver. Okay, now that we have successfully bound our transmitter to the quadcopter's receiver, now what we are going to do is go back to the transmitter and check out all of the switches and the auxiliary channels as well. So let's go ahead and do that. What we are going to do is go turn that off. What we are going to do is, or silence it for another couple minutes. We're going to go into the page, and we're going to flip over the pages until we go into the inputs. Now I have everything set up already because I've copied a model just like that, so I don't have to put all of the inputs. But from the get-go, you won't have channel 5, channel 6, and channel 7. You're going to have to go ahead and assign those yourself. So that's going to be blank. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the 4 initial channels for your sticks. And let's go to channel 5. Let's just say there's nothing in there. And let's go ahead and select it and long press it to enter the edit function. Short press it. So now we are able to edit. And it is an input, channel 5. And you can assign a name. I just put a letter A on it for ARM, and the source will be the switch that you want it to be to arm your quadcopter. So in this case, I want this switch right here in the back to be the arming switch. So I'm going to go ahead and short press it. So now it will blink and it will receive whichever switch that you assign it to. So if, let's say, if I wanted this switch to become the arming switch, so there you go, SA button or switch will be the arming switch now. But I want this switch here, so I'm going to flick that switch. So that becomes my arming switch. Now let's go ahead and press it and set that. So now let's exit out. You have set channel 5 to the SF switch for arming. So let's go to channel 6, or channel 5 was the auxiliary 1 and channel 6 is auxiliary 2. Let's go ahead and set that. Short press it to select and long press it to edit the enter the edit, and short press it to get into the editing, and there you go, channel 6. And I named it M for modes. So you can spell it all out if you want, but I just put an M on it, and go into the source and press that. So now it will accept whichever switch that you move, and I want this switch to be my mode switch. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that switch. It has accepted the SD. But if you want to assign this switch, just go ahead and flick that switch and it will become that switch that is named right here. So I'm going to change it back to this switch. So that is it, and short press on that button there and exit out, and you have set auxiliary 2 or channel 6 to the SD switch, and it is the mode switch. Now we're going to go into channel 7 and select it, long press it to enter the editing function, and short press it to enter, and we are changing the channel 7, which is auxiliary 3. So I got it named B, which stands for buzzer. So you can name it anything you want. Now going to the source one more time, short pressing it to make it accept, and I'm using this switch here. So it is already set up as SA, so that is good. But if you wish to have this switch set up as the buzzer, so just move this switch and it will accept this switch to become the channel 7 switch or auxiliary 3 switch. I'm gonna flick this button one more time, so I'll set it back to that switch and hit it and exit out, and now your inputs for your auxiliary channels are set up to the switches that you have assigned. And hit that page button one more time, and you have to kind of do this to the mixer page as well. So you're gonna scroll down to channel 5, you're gonna short press it to select, and long press it to edit the editing, and short press it to go into the editing, and you're gonna scroll down to where it says source and hit this button one more time, and you're gonna repeat the same process. This will be the arming. So now it's set on SF. So let's exit out and go to channel 6, select, long press it to enter the editing, edit, and scroll down, short press it, and make sure you got the SD for the mixer as well. Short press it, exit out, and channel 7, do the same thing, long press it, edit, go down, short press it to, and turn on the switch. Okay, now we are done. All set, exit out, and that is how you set up your transmitter for all of your switches and the inputs and the mixer for your auxiliary 1, 2, and 3, channel 5, 6, and 7 respectively. There is one more thing that I do. I put a 3-minute timer on my model. As you can see, it is counting down, and it tells you how many minutes and seconds towards the end that you have left of that 3-minute flight. And the flight starts by this momentary switch that I have selected to use as the resetting of the timer. As you can see, every time I hit the switch, it resets the timer to 3 minutes. So just before I take off, I can reset it and it will go off. You can set it to where you take off where you arm or whatever. All of the functions are in there. You can choose, but I just use this momentary switch to start my 3-minute timer. And this is how you do it. Go into the page and scroll down, and there's the timer, timer 1. You put it on the on position. You can see that you have all kinds of different options that you can choose from, but I just leave it on the on position and then scroll over. You can set as much minutes as you want, but I like to keep it at 3 minutes, so I know that I've been flying for 3 minutes. So hit that. I set mine on 3 minutes, and then scroll down and check mark on the minute, so it tells you, every minute. And the countdown, I put it on voice. You can put it on silent, or you can put it on beeps, voice, or haptic feedback. I left it on voice, so I know what she's talking about. Okay, so after you have done that, you're gonna exit out, oops, and scroll over to the special functions page, in which I have just a timer set up. So you're going to go ahead and set this baby up as well. So you're going to hit enter, and you're going to hit it again. So the switch that I've set was a SH switch, which is this momentary switch. So you can choose whatever switch that you have available to start the reset. I have it on a reset. So just go ahead and flick that switch, and you have set that switch to activate the reset function. So press it again to set it, scroll over, and the function that I have chosen is to reset. But you can, set all kinds of stuff here that I have no idea what they're talking about. But anyway, so I put mine on a reset function and press on that and chose the timer 1. You can choose various different types of stuff. Timer 2, timer 3 if you want. Okay, choose timer 1 and go over to the box and put a check mark on it and exit out. And that is it. Now you have yourself a timer for this model. And every time you flick this switch, it'll reset to 3 minutes and it'll count backwards. All right, and that is how you set up the timer for a model. Okay, so we have successfully bounded our quadcopter to the transmitter, and we have set up our transmitter with all of the auxiliary switches. So now what we're going to do is go into Betaflight and hook up our quadcopter and set it up. So we have the quadcopter right here. I got my micro USB cable, and we're going to plug this baby in. All right. And place your quadcopter on a flat level surface as much as possible. And here we go, we are connected. So what you want to do is hit this Calibrate Accelerometer, which I've kind of already done, but look at that, it still needed a little bit of, maybe the table's a little crooked now. Anyways, hit this Calibrate Accelerometer and then move on to the next page, which is the ports page. Now, if you were to have gotten a PNP version and you wanted to add a receiver, you will choose the UART6. So that is turned on. So obviously the receiver is connected to the UART6. That is a little bit unusual. Usually it's either UART2 or UART3, but this one particularly is selected on and hooked up to the UART6 on the flight controller. And then after you have done that, you're gonna hit save and reboot, but I've already done that. So let's go into the configurations page. Here I left this part alone. I have chosen multi-shot because I tried the one shot, it didn't work. I tried the D shots, it did not work, and only the multi-shot worked for me for some reason on this quadcopter here. All right, and I've already turned on my motor stop. When you turn this motor stop on, when you are in angle mode, the motors do not spin, but it does spin in air mode. And that's the reason why I have it turned on, because I sometimes use my angle mode switch to disarm the motor. at the same time I'm trying to disarm the motor with the arming switch. So I use 2 switches at one time. So I kind of got used to it, and I kind of like it like that. So, and looking at the board alignment, we have no board alignment. So the flight controller is facing straight forward, and here I have 8 and 2 kilohertz selected, and personalization for your craft name in your OSD. You can set it up here. I just typed in Nebula, and you're going to choose serial based receiver. And because I have an XM receiver, I have chosen the S-Bus serial receiver provider. Okay, but it was already chosen for me when the quadcopter arrived. Okay, so we got the LED strip, black box, SD card support, and the OSD turned on, and the VBAT have my minimum voltage set to 3.1 and warning cell voltage set to 3.3. And after you have made any changes, go ahead and save and reboot, which I didn't make any changes, but you should do that all the time. Now let's go over to the fail safe and make sure it is turned on and it is set to drop. So that is done. And let's hit the PID tuning. I have it set on Betaflight default PIDs for these flights. Did not touch anything at all. So we're gonna test it out with the Betaflight default PIDs. And let's go to the receivers tab, and at which time you need to turn on your transmitter. So let me go ahead and turn on my transmitter and go through the steps of hitting those buttons, and we are connected. There you go. Hitting my throttle, make sure your throttle moves up and down and not something else. And my yaw, left and right, roll, and pitch. I kind of like the fact that there's a quadcopter right there and you can play around with it, which is pretty cool. But as you can see, my diagram of the quadcopter is very still. It is not moving, or it is not veering off or anything like that. Very, very minute. And the reason why is because the roll is 1501, and that it's rolling very, very slightly. So you need to put these, go to your sub trims, and you need to put the midpoints right on 1500, and also you should do your end points as well. All right, so after you have done all that, you're gonna hit save. Let me just check on my, oh, I don't have any modes set. So even though, oh, it does work. My mode auxiliary 1 is working, and auxiliary 2 is working, and auxiliary 3 switch is all working here. So that is great. Okay, so I didn't realize you didn't need to set up the modes in order to check all your switches from working. Okay, anyway, after you have done all that, go ahead and hit save, and then go into your modes, in which I've erased all of the settings on my modes to show that I'm going to start from scratch here. So I'm going to go ahead and add the range for arming, and I want my arming to set on auxiliary 1 or channel 5 on my transmitter. So I'm gonna move the slider all the way to the right, because when I hit my switch, and I'm gonna hit save to save that so I can make it work. So check it out.
1.
There you go. When I hit that switch, it arms the quadcopter. As long as this slider bar is within the limits of this little button moving and hitting this area, as long as your slider bar is within, you are good to go. So it doesn't matter if your slider bar is wide like that, it still works, or if your slider bar is
30.
very small, as long as that moving button hits that parameter value. Okay, all right, so we're gonna hit that air mode. We're gonna add the range for the air mode. I'm gonna turn reset my alarm, and I want this set on auxiliary 2, so it's channel 6 on my transmitter. And my air mode, I want it all the way to the end, which is the full extent of the switch. As you can see, the switch is moving, and that's what I want air mode to be. So that is good. and we're going to hit angle, and I want my angle to be in the first position of that switch, so I'm going to leave it here. So it is an angle right now, and then when I hit it, it's going to go into air mode, and in between middle it is nothing, so it is in acro. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down and hit the beeper, add range for the beeper, because I have set up channel 7 or auxiliary 3 for the beeper. Oops, check this out, I didn't set the auxiliary for angle.
2.
You need to set the correct auxiliary for your switches to work. So, and this one I'm going to hit auxiliary 3, which is channel 7. So when I hit my switch for auxiliary 3, as you can see, it is moving, and once I hit save, now my beeper is working. You need to hit this save to make this work take effect. Okay, so now I got angle, acro, and air mode, and my arming or my beeper is working, and my arming switch is working. All right, so everything is working in the modes tab. So I'm going to go hit save, and that is it for the modes. One thing you need to do as well, because you're not running D-Shot or digital protocol, so you want to go into the motors tab as well. Now you need to turn on your quadcopter and plug in a battery for this procedure. So you need to take off all of your props when you're doing this. So what you want to do here is you want to hit this little button here. It says, I understand the risk, the propellers are removed and blah. So you're going to hit this button right here, and what you're going to do is power up the master all the way to the top. I don't have a battery hooked up, so it is not working. So right at this point,
30.
You're going to go ahead and plug in the battery to your quadcopter and make sure that the props are off, just in case the props do spin up. But it shouldn't spin up. Now when you plug in the battery to the quadcopter, the ESCs will sing a tune, and then it will stop, and at which time what you're going to do is lower down the master all the way to the bottom, and then the ESCs will sing one more time, and that means now your ESCs are calibrated. Okay, so after that you can go ahead and slide the master slider up, and the motors will spin. So be careful. That's why you need to take off your props. So once you have done all that and you are good to go, you have finished up all of the settings. Now let's go ahead and hit that OSD and check this out. I have mine's already set up. So I got my main battery voltage. You can choose the crosshairs. You can choose the artificial horizon if you want. You can choose all of these slew of stuff. I just have my battery main voltage, fly time, fly mode, and craft name. And all of these you can move around with your mouse. You can put it anywhere you want. I just happen to like it just right here. I have my mode here. I have my craft name. I have my fly time, and I have my battery voltage. So that is the way I like it, and it is set on auto. And once you have made any of the parameter changes, go ahead and hit save, and you are good to go. Now there's one thing that you should always do when you first get the quadcopter. I've already done it, but before you make any of the parameter changes in Betaflight, once you have plugged in your quadcopter to Betaflight, what you need to do, and you are connected, what you need to do is go to the command line and type in DUMP and then hit enter, which will give you all of the settings on your quadcopter at that moment. So what you want to do is select all of that information. Yeah, there's a lot of information, and what you want to do, you want to copy that information and you want to put it on a text file here. I have a text file opened up, so you're just going to go ahead and paste it on a text file. So as you can see, I have my CLI dump, paste it onto a text file, and go ahead and save this text file and name it whichever quadcopter that you are doing this to. In my case, I got it set to FB Nebula. Okay, so now go back in here. Now you can go ahead and disconnect, or you can type in exit. So I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect out of there. And you are all done. You are ready to fly. So let's go and take this baby out for a flight test, which I have already done. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the flight footage. But let me go ahead and disconnect my craft from Betaflight, so we are good to go.
2.
Okay, so we have set up the quadcopter in Betaflight, and we have successfully bounded the quadcopter to the transmitter, the Taranis Qx7s, and we have set up a new model and assigned auxiliary channels and switches. So the only thing left to do now is to take this quadcopter out and give it a test flight, in which I have already done earlier this afternoon. But I must warn you, it was a very windy day today. So was the last few days. We are having some major Santa Ana windy conditions here. Nothing really to complain about where I live. We're having just about 15 to 25 miles per hour winds here, but other parts of California is experiencing some devastating winds. 50 to 70 miles per hour winds are predicted tonight, overnight, and there's some wildfires going on in Ventura County. So my heart goes out to all of those people experiencing and being devastated by this horrific winds and these wildfires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you now with one of the flights that I have flown this quadcopter earlier this afternoon. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next time.